Hi, I'm Viraj Sheel. Now I'll be introducing you to the setup of a chessboard, the chess pieces, movement of the chess pieces, and special moves. Chess is a two-player board game. It is played on a chessboard, which is a checkered board with 64 squares arranged in an 8x8 grid. Every square on the chessboard has a name. A row of squares is called a rank. There are 8 ranks, first through eighth. A column of squares is called a file. There's 8 files, A through H. This is the starting position of a chess game. Each side has 8 pawns in a row in front of the other pieces, 2 rooks in the corners, 2 knights next to the rooks, 2 bishops next to the knights, and 1 queen and king. Each queen is set on a square of its own color. The white queen on a white square and the black queen on a black. The white player goes first. White just made his first move. White always moves first. Now it is black's turn. Black just made his first move. White and black always take turns moving. Now it's time to learn about chess pieces and moves. The most important chess piece, the king. The king moves up and down, side to side, and diagonal, but only one square at a time. The rook can move any number of squares along any rank or file, but may not leap over other pieces. Along with the king, the rook is involved during the king's castling move. The bishop can move any number of squares diagonally, but may not leap over other pieces. The queen is the most powerful piece on the chessboard. The queen combines the power of the rook and bishop, and can move any numbers of squares along rank, file, or diagonal, but may not leap over other pieces. The knight moves to any of the closest squares that are not on the same rank, file, or diagonal. Thus, the move forms an L shape, 2 squares vertically and 1 square horizontally, or 2 squares horizontally and 1 vertically. The knight is the only piece that can leap over other pieces. The pawn is very different from the other pieces. It only moves 1 square at a time and only forward, never backwards. However, when it captures, it moves 1 square diagonally. Every pawn can move 2 squares forward instead of 1, as long as it hasn't moved yet. There are a few other special pawn rules that we will learn soon. The pawn has 2 special moves, the en passant capture and pawn promotion. Now let's practice how to move and capture with the pawn. Black also moved his pawn forward 2 squares. Now you can capture it with your pawn. We captured Black's pawn. Now you know how to capture with the pawn. In this section, we will talk about some special moves like castling, capturing, en passant, pawn promotion, check, and checkmate. Castling is a special move that a player can only use once during a game. When you castle, you move your king 2 squares towards your rook, and then your rook jumps over the king and lands next to it on the other side. You can only do it if your king and rook haven't moved yet, and only if there are no other pieces in the way. The rook is now on the other side, 1 square of the king. 3 special castling rules. First, you cannot castle out of check. You cannot castle when you are out of check or through check. Second, you cannot castle if your king would be moving through a square where it is in check or into check. Third, you cannot castle if your king would end up in check at the end. Now we are going to learn about capturing enemy pieces. It's very easy. To capture a piece, you simply move your piece to the square of the piece you want to capture. Then that piece is removed from the board. There is a special pawn move called en passant, which is French for in passing. It involves a pawn capturing another pawn, which has just moved 2 squares forward. Let's take a look. You have black in this position. There's only one legal move, so go ahead and make it on the board. Now white has to move his pawn either 1 or 2 squares. If he moves 1 square to e3, you can capture the pawn. White moved his pawn 2 squares forward. It looks like you cannot capture it, but in fact you can use the en passant move here. Even though his pawn is on e4, go ahead and move your pawn to e3 and his pawn will be captured. You just used the en passant move. Remember, this move is only possible right after your opponent moves his pawn 2 squares forward and your pawn is directly next to it. Now we are going to learn about the most important special pawn move called pawn promotion. If your pawn reaches the end of the board, it becomes a queen, rook, bishop, or knight. You simply move your pawn to the last rank and replace it with whatever piece you want except for a king. This means that literally every little pawn is important because it may eventually become a much more powerful piece. In this position, 4 of your pawns are ready to promote. Move your pawn to the end of the board and promote it to a knight, bishop, or queen, or rook. You just promoted your pawn to a queen. Now we are going to learn about one of the most important rules in chess, check. Check is when the king is under attack and can be captured on the next move. If your king is in check, you must get out of check immediately. You can do this in one of 3 ways. You can move your king to a square where it isn't in check. You can block the check by moving a piece in between your king and the checking piece. Or you can capture the piece that is putting you in chess. This may be known as CBR, or capture, block, and run. In this position, black's queen is attacking your king, so you have to get out of check. Excellent! You took black's queen and you're not in check anymore. In fact, black is now in check. Since he has no pieces to block or capture, he must move his king. Finally, it's time to learn about checkmate. Checkmate is the goal of chess. It's how one side wins. The king is in checkmate when it's in check and has no way to get out of check. In this position, white has 4 different ways to put black in check. However, only one of them is checkmate. Take a look and see if you can figure out which one is the best. This move puts black in checkmate. You just won the game. Thank you for watching my video on how to play chess.